Yes, Janet, what Musalia Mudavadi's options we'll know in a short while, and we'll ask him. We have him here. Thank you very much for making time for us. First things first, you claimed yesterday that there was a deal, a gentleman agreement to have Uhuru Kenyatta stand down so that you can be the Jubilee Alliance flag bearer. He has confirmed that. He said it's true, but now this one's saying the delegates will decide. Do you feel duped?
First of all, let me state that this was not a gentleman's agreement. It is a written agreement. It is executed by the parties concerned.
Mm-hmm.
It is witnessed by a number of people, William Ruto,
Mm-hmm.
and two lawyers, one from my side
Mm-hmm.
and the other from Uhuru's side.
Mm-hmm.
So it is, we should not dismiss it as a gentleman's agreement.
Of course, we should not dismiss it, but I suppose that's why we had a provision in the Constitution so that we can have people deposit coalition agreements with the register of political parties. You didn't do it that way. That's why we're calling it.
Well, it does make reference to the coalition agreement that has been deposited
With
the register of political
Mm-hmm.
parties.
Given again the agreement,
Yes.
given what has been happening in this country in
Yeah.
politics,
Yes.
people have been dishonoring MOUs and such agreements
Mhm.
until we had such provisions now
Mhm.
in the Constitution.
Mhm.
Doesn't that smack of you being naive going to that agreement that way?
I don't think I'm naive. I think what is important here is that we want to provide a leadership in this country that will honor its word. That is absolutely important.
Mhm.
And the way I look at it and the way I look at the future, I would like my word to be as good as what you would take to the bank. This is important if you want to move Kenya into the future. So I would like to say that let Kenyans debate this issue. Let them reflect on it. Because at the end of the day, it does reflect the kind of leaders we shall be putting in place. So it is important that we work together, and it is important that we look at it that let us now provide a leadership that if I say I am coming to perform a particular function in a particular area, I must come and do it. If I say that we intend to do something for education in this country, let us do it. That is the value that I want to bring to the politics of this country.
You're talking about looking at somebody's words. What was going through your mind that time?
I think I want to be able to participate effectively in improving Kenya's position.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I want to state very clearly is that I would like to see an election which is won in the first round. I would not like to see Kenyans subjected to a runoff as much as possible. It can happen, but ideally we should have an election that is won in the first round. It's good for the unity of this country. It is important for our national resource base, and it is good for building confidence in the transition that we are going through. And I have not changed my mind on that particular issue.
Is that what drove you towards this agreement?
That is one of the very important factors. One, let us not polarize our country by going into a runoff if possible. Let us be able to work and have Kenyans vote in a peaceful process so that there's less acrimony, there's less talk, there's less anxiety around election issues, and people, the world and people in Kenya will have confidence that this has been a proper democratic process.
Has there been any progress since yesterday? In terms of talks?
In terms of talks, we are discussing. And this is a delicate matter, and that is why we don't want to just keep on talking about it before we really crystallize. But I'm confident that with strong willpower, with goodwill, and with the proper counsel around us, we should be able to resolve this.
Well, we have seen Kenyatta saying, of course, and he confirms there was such an agreement, and now saying the delegates say it has to be done democratically through the delegate system. That is how they're going to do it. What are you going to do?
You see, let us put it this way. Nobody has ever said that consensus building is undemocratic. Let us revisit how we got to our constitution. There's a question of give and take on several issues.
Yes.
Let us also face the reality. My brother Ruto and Uhuru had also gone through a process.
Yes.
There was no delegates conference to arrive at that position. We are likely to see that the CORD, our competitors, are going to go into some consensus.
So in the event that they stand their ground.
So we must leave room to have both parts in our mind. But let us not give the impression that consensus building is undemocratic.
Right. What if they stand by their word? That is how they want it.
Well, let me not preempt anything. Let us have discussion on this issue. A day or two to reflect on the events is usually very helpful if we want to achieve certain objectives.
Now, the other thing, of course, is must it be this way? Must it be a consensus to you? Can't you find a way around getting delegates and working the way TNA wants it to be worked out?
I think let's go backwards a bit and ask ourselves, if you have an agreement, don't you think it would be good that we, first of all, say, yes, we have an agreement. Can we honor the agreement? I think that would be very honorable.
That is true.
Yeah.
But clearly, that is not forthcoming. And again, let's go back to the...
I'm not too sure yet.
Yeah,
because
but as things stand now, that is not forthcoming.
All doors are not closed yet.
Okay. What if, of course, you're saying all doors are not closed? We'll see. Time will tell, Mheshimiwa. You left ODM at some point. We were with you here. And at that time, you were very clear when you were saying you left ODM because you wanted the nomination between you and the Prime Minister at that time to be done through the delegate system. You are not very okay with boardroom deals or consensus.
Now,
why would you do anything to the contrary?
Let's look at the distinction here. At that time, there was a clause that said in that party that unless you're the party leader, you cannot participate in a competitive process. Remember, that is what it was. Now, let us look at the circumstances here. This is a coalition, 3 different parties coming into place.
Right.
All right? So the delegates are not uniform. Delegates from TNA, delegates from URP, delegates from UDF have never interacted before. So you're dealing with a new people. And technically, let's remember, as we stand now, until people have crossed over to the other parties, technically, the 3 of us would not be delegates of those political parties.
You say we wait and see what will happen.
Yeah.
What happens about this? But the coalition agreement you have, no party can leave without giving a 3 months notice. No party can leave the coalition.
I think.
What are your options if this goes?
I think there's a misconception.
Right.
If there's a blatant material breach,
Right.
because the law was not crafted to lock you in just for the sake of it. I think legal interpretation will show that they must, if there's material breach of such an agreement ab initio, then there's room to exit. So there's a misconception here, because mutual 3 months notice and what have you presupposes that there's no breach and you want to give appropriate notice and so forth. But if there's constant breach or ab initio breach, I know the law would be able to allow that.
But that is breaching provisions in the coalition agreement you have. This agreement was not in that coalition agreement, was it?
It makes reference to it, okay?
So are you saying...
So it makes reference to the coalition agreement that has been deposited.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's still a way you can
you
may opt to pull UDF out. Is that's a possibility?
So it's a serious matter.
Okay. The other thing, of course, we've had in Gashuri's story, sources tell us the agreement you had, Kenyatta was to have 40% of the government controlling, Ruto to have 35%, and you 25%. Clearly, doesn't that make you a lame duck president? Why would you have agreed to such a thing?
I don't think it is a question of a lame duck president, my good friend. Let us be very clear. First of all, that proposal requires that you could have structures. But there is the issue here that if indeed a party produces the presidency through consensus again, you would then say, because the presidency has certain aspects that go with it, let us, in a way, compensate some of the other parties that did not produce the presidency. So the party that produces the presidency cedes some rights to government. The one that produces the deputy president also cedes some rights. And the one that does not produce the presidency is compensated in that format. And I think that this is something that we ought to honor.
That is true, but clearly doesn't that just show that you won't really have control of the government with 25%?
No, I think let's look at it this way. It's not about controlling the government. My good
it's
friend.
about the executive and having power to implement
it's not about
policies.
It's not about controlling the government. Remember, our constitution has changed. Our constitution is such that the executive is no longer in parliament. And you cannot have, unless you are a party that sweeps more than 70% of the seats, then you can say that. But we are far from that kind of era. So let us be prepared to work in a government that is shared by all Kenyans, that gives all Kenyans an opportunity to be part and parcel of the governance of their country. And that is where we stand.
I'll leave it at that. You don't want to preempt anything you said, but let me just ask you this question finally. Are you going for any other way, a delegate system, U.S. Mudavadi?
We are discussing, and we are saying that let the discussions bear fruit. And I would like to appeal to our supporters all over the country. I know it is a matter of tension for them. I know they're feeling all the anxiety. But I want to tell them that staying put and staying strong within the Jubilee Coalition provides a serious and credible alternative to the leadership of this country. And let them now support us to get there. Let them not be part of any stumbling block to finding a resolution on this particular issue. That is very important.
Finally, reports today that you were supposed to meet Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Is that true?
I don't.
We get that the Prime Minister is not in the country. Did you meet him before, or were you supposed to meet anybody from Quad? Or?
I don't respond to rumors.
So there's nothing like that?
No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Deputy Prime Minister, thank you very much for making time for us. That is Deputy Prime Minister Musalia Mudavadi, of course, talking about the standoff that persists in the Jubilee Alliance. Janet, it's back to you.